What am I doing in Taipei? That is the topic of this episode of Chi Life. So, another day, another hotel room. This one's a bit different from the ones I've been in recently. Um, all the ones in Bali, they're somewhat different from each other, but they had a similar feel, a similar look to them in many ways. And this one is in Taipei. I just arrived earlier today, and I thought I would make a vlog right now at the beginning of my time in Taipei rather than at the end to talk about what it is that I'm doing here. So I spent a good part of the day walking around, and so I'm going to have some footage playing, over me talking of, just some of the areas that I went to. So what am I hoping to get out of visiting Taipei? I have never been to Taipei, Taiwan, before, and it's been something that has been on my to-do list for quite some time. And that's because, so I've heard, apparently some aspects of Chinese culture have been preserved, I guess we could say, differently in Taipei than in mainland China. And this is because of the differences in their political history, modern political history. And because of that, there was a divergence in their political paths, and that then led to a divergence in how their societies maintained aspects of their culture or not, and also how their societies and culture have continued to develop from that time through until now in the present age. And so, while I've been to mainland China many times, I've never made it here to Taipei, and again, it's been one of the things that's been on my to-do list. It's something I've definitely wanted to do. And look, it's not that... Look, if you've watched the vlog for a while, followed it, you've probably heard me talk about different aspects of how culture relates to Qigong. And you'll know that I don't see Qigong as primarily a cultural practice, or even necessarily as a cultural practice at all. In fact, I think that having too much of an emphasis and focus on culture actually distracts you from the true essence of Qigong, because you're looking at all the cultural stuff rather than what's real behind it. But then at the same time, understanding culture, essentially studying the things that are adjacent to the deeper principles, does give us some insight, some understanding, some perspective, because culture shapes the way those principles are expressed. And so understanding the culture, again, that's not the main thing, that's not the main purpose, but it does give some insight, give some understanding, as well as just being interesting, being enjoyable. In many ways, you could compare it to some of the other things that I do that are maybe not Qigong, but are adjacent to Qigong. And there's a variety of different activities that I get involved in, that I study, that I research and I learn about. Partly, of course, because they're fun, because I enjoy them, but also because of the insight they can give me back to my Qigong practice and my understanding of Qigong principles. So that's why I'm here. It's not that I'm hoping to discover some great secret, or some new master or old master or anything like that. But just to see some aspects of the culture here. And I don't have any specific plans while I'm here, and I'm not here long. I'm only here for a few days. It's been interesting, actually, turning up in a new place, and all I did preparing to come here was, well, of course, I booked my flights, I booked some accommodation, I checked the visa requirements, and that's it. Everything else has just been figuring out as I go now that I've arrived, and that's been kind of cool as well, having not done extensive travel for a long time. Just that process of having to quickly figure out how to do things in a new space. So today I have turned up, I've made my way through the airport, I've managed to get a SIM card, I've gone and got money out from an ATM, and then had to go back relatively soon after to get more money out from the ATM after realizing that the amount that I took out wasn't going to last very long. Really having no idea how much things are going to cost here. Not that they're expensive, but it's just hard to gauge how much money to take out until you've got an idea of prices of things. And then managed to get myself a public transport pass and use that several times on trains and on buses. And then I've just been exploring parts of the city. And one of the places that I went to that was really interesting was Lungshan Temple, a Buddhist temple. Well, it's a little bit more than a Buddhist temple. One of the things that Lungshan is recognized for is, particularly in its architecture, the way it's brought together different aspects of Taoist, Confucian, and Buddhist symbolism within its architecture. And this is related to the way that Chinese do tend to blend some aspects of these different philosophical bases within their practices. Now, often they have separate temples for each of them, but they, within their lives, just blend it all together. But this is, this Lungshan temple is interesting in that it's brought the architecture from these different influences together. Quite cool, quite interesting as well that that this particular temple, it's quite approachable in that it's not too big. It's not sort of overwhelming like some of the big temple complexes can be. And they have a great guide that you can get. You just use a QR code with your phone as you go in, and there's a guide, and you can look through and read different things about the temple. And it even gives you instructions about how you should worship at the temple if you want to do that, and instructions about how, if you want to do some divinations, the traditional way of divination using different sticks and things like that within the temple. And the process for worshipping at the temple is quite interesting. It's you go and you state, I guess this is to yourself or possibly out loud, you state your name, your birth date, and your current address, and then you ask your questions or say what you want, and then after that you bow to the different deities. It's very business-like, very organized. You got to make sure that whatever it is you're asking for goes to the right person, and so that's, you got to have your birth date and your current address, because you wouldn't want it going to the wrong person. So that was kind of interesting. So as well as that, of course, just wandering around some of the streets and alleys. And then I wandered through the Botanic Garden here as well, which was really nice, seeing some of the different plants and things through there. That was really nice. And then also the Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall. I had a little bit of a look through there. And of course, that goes back to that political divergence that I mentioned earlier. It was the time of Chiang Kai-shek, and yeah, Taipei, Taiwan then went on a very different political path from mainland China, and that's led to differences throughout that time period and now. And I guess that's one of the things that, even now, having just been here less than a day, I've found interesting just to get that little taste of the culture of the place, essentially of the energy of the place, and in many ways, being here, of course it's very similar in many ways to mainland China, and it brings back fond memories of some of my trips to mainland China, some of those similarities, but at the same time some differences as well. And so that's been really interesting to observe. So as I mentioned, again, I'm here for just a few days, not expecting to discover anything too amazing, but hoping, and I'm sure I will, to again just get at least something of a taste of the place, of the culture, of the energy, maybe get some useful insights or interesting inspiration. And yeah, I think there's always something to being somewhere for yourself, not just hearing about it from other people, not just reading about it in a book or watching a video. There's something about actually going there, being there. I guess in other cases, actually doing something, rather than just hearing about it. It gives you a whole different level of insight and understanding, because it's coming from your own direct experience. And so yeah, that's what I'm hoping to get out of being here in Taipei. Some little, maybe some little insights, some little pieces of perspective. Again, in many ways, you could compare this to other things, things relating to Qigong and things like that as well. Big difference between having a theoretical knowledge, learning something from a book or being told something, and actually doing it and experiencing it for yourself. And I think that's where the real value is. So yeah, that's what I'm doing here. This might be my only vlog from Taipei, I'm not sure. It's possible I might do another one if I find something interesting to talk about. But yeah, I just thought I'd talk about why specifically I'm here on this trip, on this visit. All right. If you've enjoyed the vlog, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all those good things, and I look forward to seeing you on another one soon.